Morning, everyone. Thank you for turning out on a Sunday morning.
Yes, so early.
Yeah. No.
It was a challenge for Rajiv and me, so it must have been a bigger challenge for you.
No. I really want to start by saying that it's always awkward to say it when the person's right there. But Imtiaz is just such an exciting filmmaker, and I really I'm so glad and so grateful for this privilege to be in this room chatting with him because I think I've loved some of his films a lot more than some. But I think what's really exciting about Imtiaz is that every time he has a film out, and I think anyone who's a fan will agree that he has something to say in every one of his films. He touches there is an authentic part of you that his films touch, and I think that I'm maybe not being very articulate, but every single one of his films, there is something that makes you feel like I recognize this, I've been through this, I know this, and I think that is what makes his films so personal and makes you feel, which is really, I think, such a gift, Imtiaz, for both as an audience, because I think that when your audience feels a sense of ownership towards your films, it's not even something that we've made, but you feel like this is mine. I feel like that most about Rockstar. That is a film that I have seen innumerable times, and I just love. And I'm and in my friend circle, it's divided between Tamasha and Rockstar, and I'm on Team Rockstar. But the latest one, of course, was Amar Singh Chamkila, and I want to start by asking Imtiaz, why was this? And the beauty of that film is it's saying again, while it is a biopic, which is the most reductive way to describe any film, it's saying so much. It's saying so much about the times. It's saying so much about freedom of expression. It's talking about censorship. What was the entry for you, Imtiaz, for that story? Why was that story the one you wanted to tell? Was it the person who was fascinating? Was it all of these other things that you could speak about through that by telling that story? What was your single point of interest when you decided to make that film?
It was my feeling or relationship with Punjab, because I feel that it's a very conflicted place and it is a mixture of opposites. There is the presence of an extreme amount of celebration and an extreme amount of violent history. And these things have coexisted in that culture. And then I've always been thinking about it. There's a song in the film which kind of addresses it almost head on.
Yeah.
And that song is Main Hu Punjab, you know. And so I was already always thinking about that Heer Ranjha and, uh, most of the, like Soni Mahiwal and all of the love stories of India are actually Punjabi.
Yeah, right.
Yet, from the time of Alexander, they have been stressed about violence. And so, Chamkila was like a case in point for Punjab. Right. Also a mixture of opposites with so much celebration and so much threat through his life. So one represented the other. Also, one was a product of the other, because it was also a time like that in Punjab, which the 80s, where terrible things were happening. People were being killed on the streets and people were unemployed. And in that, the kind of celebrative music that Chamkila made, all his songs were only celebrations. None of it was a reflection of what misery the state was going through in that way. So that really was my entry point into the film.
Imtiaz, this is the first film that you made for streaming. You made it for streaming. Why was that the right fit for it? And now that you've gone through that experience, what did it allow you to do? Did you find that the reach is strong? I mean, what has been your experience with making a film for streaming versus all the other times when you made a film specifically for or for theater first?
I was skeptical as well before coming in with a direct to digital film, and I thought whether I didn't know, it was a subconscious feeling that it will not be fun.
Right.
It will not be fun enough, because I am one of those
Fun enough to
filmmakers-
watch.
Fun enough to make and watch and show, and for other people to watch, because the big screen has its own, like we have a hangover of big
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
which is fair because all my life I've seen films on the big screen. So I'd like to see my film on the big screen. When I'm writing a film, I'm imagining it playing on a big screen.
Right.
So that was it was a difficult recalibration for me to do.
But did you make it differently? Was
No,
the
I didn't.
Right.
What I did actually is that initially when we started planning the film, it was supposed to be for the big screen. And then later on, before we started shooting, much before we started shooting, we decided to make it direct to digital. But in that, what I kind of decided completely illogically, and that's the rock star thing,
Yeah.
maybe you will like
Yeah.
this, that I said, oh, this film let me make more cinematic and more suited to theatrical than any other film.
Right.
And also it was a learning experience, and I knew that it would be. And I realized that the same values of cinematicness work as much on direct to digital as well, because people liked the fact that Chamkila was shot in a certain way.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, it's incredibly cinematic, but also I think you played with form so much in this film, in the way that you in the way that you used animation, in the way, I mean, it just was the most beautiful sort of. Am I right? I mean, did you guys enjoy the film? I thought it was a new way of telling. I mean, it's certainly very different from what you'd done previously. Will you talk a little about Diljit and working with him? He's just incredible, and while he himself likes to think of himself, I mean, he identifies as musician first. He's just such a gifted actor. That man can make you tear up from just an expression. What was that like? And you hadn't worked with him before. What was the? Did you get time to spend with him before? How did he get into the film?
I had thought of Diljit right in the beginning when we were conceiving the film. But then I thought that he might not be able to do it for a technical reason.
Right.
And then I was looking for casting, and I was thinking of different actors. But it came around that finally, after going through a whole journey trying to cast other actors in it, we came back to Diljit. And so there was this conversation. I don't know how it came about, but then finally Diljit and me were talking on the phone. And so I told him the story as I wanted to make it. He, of course, knew the story of Chamkila per se. And then he said that, पाजी अगर आपको लगता है कि मैं कर सकता हूँ, तो मैं तैयार हूँ. मैं बचपन से चमकीले का फैन हूँ. हाँ, he said this very significant thing, and I apologize to people who don't follow Hindi in this room. He said, इस दुनिया में बहुत सारे लोग हैं जिनको लगता है कि वो ही चमकीला के सबसे बड़े फैन हैं. मैं भी उनमें से ही एक हूँ. And so I understood and saw the eagerness with which he wanted to play this. And then he also said that, I said, yeah, बहुत अच्छी बात होगी, because I'd like live singing in this film, like they did in this wonderful film called La La Land. And I said in Chicago there was a film musical. They do this in the West. We should do it also. Something in our own way we can do. These are such great films. We also should make. He said, नहीं sir, but Rockstar भी बुरी नहीं है. I said, ठीक है, Rockstar तो ठीक है. वो अगर रणबीर गा सकता तो वो ही गाता ना. अब तो आप गा सकते हो. So बोला, हाँ जी बाजी, मैं करूँगा. मैं ना नहीं बोल रहा, मैं करूँगा. मगर ऐसा नहीं है, हम भी ठीक ही बनाते हैं. Rockstar भी अच्छी फिल्म है. So I said, yeah. So that's how it came about. And he said, I know the look of Chamkila. Right. I understand. I will work it out. That was the issue, right? Correct. So then we found out a way to work it out. He has long hair. Yeah. And we used a wig, and it didn't show. And we needed a wig because Chamkila's hair is in a certain way. And it worked out. I'm very glad. And yes, he's a very gifted actor. Yeah. He does not believe he's an actor at all. And maybe that's a lesson that many actors can learn. Yes. Because he's like, my actor knew. And he took me into confidence. And then we had a conversation. And he remained true to that. And I also tried to remain true to that, because he didn't want to over-prepare. Right. And he knew he had all the information. He's so smart, you don't have to finish the sentence with him. And sometimes when you don't have to finish the sentence with a guy, with an actor, as a director, you should never. Because that little extra loading might take the instinct away.
Right.
You know, you should just prime and leave. It's not about supplying information, I feel.
Right.
Direction. It's actually just like honing that instinct.
And that's how, if it did this film change you as a person? Maybe change the way you look at the world, or just change you personally? I find actors talk a lot about how certain parts change them. I'm imagining it can't be very different. Not, I mean, maybe in different ways, but I'm sure for a filmmaker, also every film leaves a residue. And
This film gave me a lot of freshness, particularly. And that freshness came from the locales we shot at. These were the back of the beyond villages in India, in Punjab specifically. Villages that are very small, people of the types that we don't meet, people that are not even represented in cinema. I was very happy to be making a film which was not set in the city, which was not even set in a town. It was very different from any place that I have personally lived in. And there's a certain, when I went to Punjab, I was talking to these people over there, and they were so nice. And I was thinking they are pretending to be nice because that's what we all do.
right.
And then it only took a little time for me to realize that, they just mean what they're saying. They're nice. They're welcoming you to their house. We were shooting in their houses. They were so decent. Diljit is the biggest star for them. In a small village, imagine in Punjab. In their house, they weren't even looking at him too much because he'd get a bit like affected by it. They were so decent. These are the people of Sangrur and Tori and all these small places. And somehow I thought, I'm so cynical. I was doubting their intent. These guys just want to be, and this is how they are. And we were shooting on terraces, and there were 1,000 terraces all around in the day, and people were standing and looking at shooting. Can you imagine in Sangrur shooting ho rahi hai, film wale aaye Bombay se, for them it's a big deal, right? So, and I was like, Paji, please, aap log thoda hat sakte ho, please thoda aise ho jao, thoda aise ho jao. They all went down. Imagine that happening anywhere else.
It's impossible to achieve in Bombay or anywhere.
It gave me a lot of freshness, therefore. That there's a lot of hope in life. We shouldn't get so cynical. We get so negative. The chatter is so negative always. The world is going to end, and इसमें ecology में फरलना हो रहा है. बहुत कुछ हो रहा है.
Correct.
बहुत अच्छी चीजें भी हो रही है यार. So I feel that वो जो अच्छाई होती है ना इंसानियत की, that I could get a glimpse of. And that is my single most important taking from this film.
Is there, I mean, at what point during the making of a film do you get a sense of whether it's going right? And when I mean right, I don't mean how it's going to do, because I think that is in nobody's hands and no one really knows how a film is going to perform. I mean, in the case of a film that's for streaming anyway, perhaps that's not a burden that one has to deal with. But that it's turning out right, or you're achieving what you set out to. Does one, and have there been experiences when you've not felt that way? Like while making, you feel like I'm not getting exactly what I want, for whatever reason. Maybe the performance not working. Maybe I feel like this script hasn't come together. The team hasn't come together. How do you know if you're achieving what you want to achieve, what you've set out to achieve on a daily basis on set?
You never do. You never get to know whether you're going right or wrong. Most of the things that are significant are experienced in retrospect. Right. Now I can look back at a certain day of shooting and feel that, oh, that day I had that thought and it really worked out, or that it really effed up what I was doing. But either way, not at that moment. At that moment, you're running and you're just picking up things and doing what has to be done. And, there's something else that is guiding you, perhaps, which in retrospect you realize. But also I'd like to make a correction in your assumption, Rajiv, that it does, the pressure of performance even on the OTT exists.
Wow. Of the film's performance.
Of the film's performance, it does exist.
Okay.
Because if nothing else, there'll be lists out telling you which film has done better and worst and so on and so forth. Those lists will be thrown.
So you're never free of that pressure.
You're
as a
never,
maker.
and you know, the other thing is that when numbers started to happen in our lives, we didn't understand them because we, as filmmakers, are actually not mathematicians or trade analysts. We pretend to be.
Correct.
Actors pretend to be trade analysts because otherwise the job is very lonely.
Right.
So we don't know about numbers. कोई आके बोलता है इसने इतने करोड़ and all, and I have to second guess from his reaction that is it good or bad.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So because numbers change. Numbers have changed every half a decade, etc. Right? So over here also. But how you get to know is it's like almost your body feeling a certain warmth or a coldness from the mass of audience.
Right.
Generally, it gets to you. You know which film is done well. When Rockstar released, we thought this film has not done well. Because there was a lot of, many, it was the first time in my life that I actually faced criticism. Because after Socha Na Tha's, well, small film but cute, whoever saw it, few people did. But they liked it.
Everyone liked it,
Then Jab We Met, again, not many people saw, but over the years it was loved. Same for Love Aajkal in a way. It was actually a bigger, like a more successful opening type. But for Rockstar, there was a mass that was criticizing. But today, I feel that more people are, like a lot of people are talking about Rockstar. It was released recently and it did well and all of that. So you never actually get to know, but there's a way that you bodily get to know.
Right.
So you have to know that that's going to happen.
Is your relationship with the films that didn't work different from the ones that have found love consistently and you know, films that like Jab We Met? Is your relationship very different from with the first Love Aajkal and the second Love Aajkal?
I guess it is. And the sense of engagement is the same.
Yeah.
But, you know, on a day-to-day life, you don't think about your films.
Right.
But if people talk about your films to you, you're reminded of them. So your relationship with that particular film is re-strengthened.
Right.
Like you spoke about Rockstar, now I'm thinking about Rockstar. Since people don't talk that much about Love Aajkal, the second one,
Correct. You're not necessarily
I'm
thinking
not
about
engaged with it all the time.
Right.
But I met Karthik recently, and we were talking, and he was saying about the flashback sequence, you know, the past sequence, and he says there were some very good things.
Those are the those bits were lovely. I was telling Arushi, who we met, I thought that song Shayad, where you have all those flashback sort of portions and those sort of romantic, them as much younger, beautiful, very beautiful.
Yeah, so it's like whenever somebody talks about a particular film, my engagement with it comes. And but yeah, you do feel that there's a difference, and you sometimes go to analyze. But I've also realized that not everything is good in a popular film, and not everything is bad in an unpopular film. So you've got to be wise. If you want to take anything at all from your films, then you can't just do it very blindly. That ये चलिए तो सब कुछ जो जब भी मेट में था वो अच्छा था, उसका ट्रेन सीक्वेंस भी बहुत अच्छा था, ग्राफिक्स VFX भी बहुत अच्छा था, नहीं था वो खराब था, अगली फिल्म में वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए.
How does one stay objective, Imtiaz? How does in the business that you're in, where you have people around you who are, I mean, you have all kinds, right? You have people that are sort of propping you up to make you feel like you're absolutely invincible, and then you also have there's also a section of people that will pull down even a film like Rockstar, which for all, I mean, practical purposes, is a big successful film, and you're saying that's the first time you felt criticism up close. How does one stay completely objective and rooted when you have when there's so much surround sound and you're living in a business where everyone has an opinion and everyone's trying to tell you how to do your job, maybe?
Yeah, but I feel that the set of people that existed in your life before you came into films continue to exist.
Yeah.
And that is a support system. I am blessed with family, a mother, a father, brothers, and friends who are also as much as family, who criticize me, humiliate me, insult me at every given opportunity. They think nothing of me. Some of them are sitting here. And so I have to try to convince them sometimes. Like there was somebody, a fan person came and was saying something to me, and I was telling her that please tell this guy all of the things you say. So yeah, so I have that system of check and balances, and within that I feel also there's a certain something that gets initiated into you by the way you're raised.
Right.
And so I think it's must be those things that keep me right. I feel that um, I can go up and down, but people always, like the people in my life always pull me back and give me an objective view. And the other thing which I think is precious and I've learned over the years is I asked the same question to Rahman sir. Because I felt that so many people praise your film, your song so much. And I don't think there's any bad song made by you that I've heard. And you've made so many of them. How do you keep your... He said, see, people will say good about some bad songs also maybe and bad about good songs. I feel, what do I feel about it?
Right.
So I think about it and I think, oh, it's not so bad actually. He's saying that it's bad, but my opinion is that it's not. So my opinion, a true opinion to the work that you do sometimes also can help.
Sure. Imtiaz, the Imtiaz that made Sochana Tha, you were in your 20s?
No, I was 30.
30, okay. Do you feel like you've changed a lot since then as a person?
Well, I'd like to think that I have. And yeah, I think I have, but there are certain basic values or certain basic thoughts that have remained the same. I like that person also.
Yeah.
I feel that that's nice. I was always a bit like, in a way, a drifter, but also with people. So in some ways I might have changed, and some change might be positive. I think I listen more than before. But I also talk more than before.
How do you decide, Imtiaz, what you want to do next? At what point during a film's making do you already know what the next one's going to be? I'm imagining, because I talk to filmmakers, that at any given point there's multiple subjects going on and at different stages of writing and development. But I'm guessing now that you've finished Chamkila and it's out, you're probably you that's the point. I mean, maybe a few months ago when Chamkila came out is when you have to kind of, I suppose, commit personally to deciding which one out of those 4 or 5 you're going to do next. Is it is it where your head is that you decide? Is it the one that's furthest in development? Is it the one that has an actor attached usually, or you know that there's an actor interested? How does what leads to that decision that that's going to be the next one?
So I must say that IIFM this time, and a gathering like this of filmmakers is a brilliant opportunity for filmmakers to discuss this amongst themselves.
Right.
So Raju Hirani was here, he's left today in the morning. Sujit Sarkar was here, must be still. And we rally around and we talk about this. So, आप क्या कर रहे हो? आपकी कौन सी कहानी? I told Raju 2 stories. And I said, कौन सी बनानी चाहिए? Because everybody is trying to find out. And we have also made films before. Correct. So we know that the film that you might want to make when you're shooting another one it might not be the film that you end up making.
Right.
There are lots of things that you need to surrender to, and maybe some other film will start. So I told him 2 stories. He's also thinking, यार तेरी तो 2 कहानियाँ ready हैं, तू तीसरी सुनाने वाला है. मैं भी सुनाता हूँ. मेरे पास भी ये है, but वो. So then I told him, नहीं वो कहानी. So we keep doing this. We keep. So it was a great opportunity to discuss that. There's no, I don't think there is a pattern. If I look at what I have ended up doing, there's no pattern. And but I feel some stories take some time to bake.
Right.
Some stories are instantly ready. Right. And might take off. So I feel that what we can do is work earnestly on everything that is of interest. And the other thing is, we always think about time is changing.
Yeah.
This is a discussion we had a couple of nights back. Raju sir and I said, time is changing. Does the audience want something different? Should we look at what we have and reject them because, sometimes you make a film only because you've been preparing it for a long time. But I also trust the system which makes the film. These films do fall by the wayside.
Right.
Because there is also, thankfully, a producer, there is the system, there is the unit. The unit has a face. That face has expressions that tell you that this is not going well right now. So, all of that adds up. And then you decide that ye nahi ho raha hai. You have to be the one to decide.
Right.
Yet you can also look at people and listen and then decide.
You made two films with Ranbir, and to me that is the most exciting sort of collaboration between actor and director, because it feels like you'll achieve something which is sort of way beyond what could have been on a page. It feels like there is a shorthand, and somehow you're able to draw out stuff from him, and he's able to give you stuff which just seems exclusive to your collaboration. And then one sees something like a Chamkila where you're working with with Diljit for the first time, and it's incredible. So I suppose what I want to ask you is, of course, you're looking for an actor. Once you zero in on what you want to do next, you're looking for the person who would suit that. But do you find, is it more exciting to work with someone that you already know, whose strengths you already know, and who you can perhaps push to now doing even more than you already done with? Or is there an excitement in the unknown of discovering an actor that you haven't worked with, and see where that leads? What is the potential there?
The excitement is always for the unknown.
Right.
However, there are actors that have unknown sides of themselves that have not been explored.
Correct.
And the example that I can think of is Deepika in Cocktail.
That's true.
Because I'd written this story, and we knew that I was not going to direct it because I was making Rockstar. And so we gave the script, Dinu gave the script to her to read. And she called me after that. For people that have seen Cocktail, there were two girls in it, Mira and Veronica. Veronica was the wild girl, Mira was the subdued, nice girl. And everyone expected Deepika. So the role that was pitched to her was that of Mira.
Right.
So she read it, and she called me, and she said, I have done this kind of role in your previous film, which is Love Aajkal. And the name of the character is also Mira, and you've written both. So what do you think? So my reaction was, read Veronica. Right. Read the whole script thinking of Veronica now and see how that plays. Because I had seen a side of her in just like these room parties that we do, which was so crazy and wild. And, when she became comfortable with me and with us, then I realized that she's wicked. Right. And she's got this really humorous, fun, wild side. So then she read Veronica and she said, yeah, this is the one that I really want to do. And it turned out so well, and it exposed us. So there is unknown that exists in the people that you know.
Right.
There is excitement about how the guy who played Rockstar would play this. And what we were most excited about Tamasha was playing plain. Yeah. Nothing ordinary. Simple, no glam. Yeah. Boring. So that was the point of excitement for Ranbir and me. So how does that guy play this and look convincing in it? Because there is a side of him that can be like that. Yeah. Just an empty canvas. He has that. And I knew it. Right. So we thought, let's go in that direction and see how that journey is. So I think suitability, it's not even suitability per se, it's what the role can do to this body and mind, and what can this actor bring to it. So if it is a little less known or unknown, it's always challenging. Nice. But one thing is primary, it's the interest from both sides. Right. Sometimes you do a good project, whether you are an actor or a filmmaker, and it doesn't work because the passion is truly not there.
It was, you said something interesting where you said that because it works, everything that works isn't necessarily great, and everything that doesn't work isn't necessarily terrible. And certainly from the maker's point of view, how does failure affect you? Does it affect you when someone when an audience has rejected? And I use these. I mean, when you say rejected, it's when, I mean, rejection is, I suppose, in filmmaking terms, it's when it doesn't make the money that it's meant to make. So when the business declares that this film has not done well, how does that affect you? I mean, how personal is it, given that the filmmaking process and the journey is so personal to you?
Yeah, what is more personal is the making of the film, not the verdict of the audience. Of course, it must matter, and it does matter, and the box office matters. And I also take the popularity of a film as a signal to how good it was.
Sure.
So I try to calibrate my own brain about how it is. Like, is the film so good or not?
Right.
If I feel, in that way believe in the democracy of the this process.
Right.
I feel that if people have not liked the film, it's not so good. So and I could have done better, or there's a way that I could have told this story better. For instance, I feel that Jab Harry Met Sejal is a story that I could have said better and shouldn't have named it Jab, just because
Of Jab We Met.
Jab We Met, and things like that. So it could have been a fresher experience. I could have told that story better. Even Love Aajkal, I could have, almost all the stories I could have told better, but these two specifically I could have. So, but all of this is retrospect.
Right.
At the time, like right now, if you talk to me about Chamkila, I'll say thank you, very nice, very good. But I'm really thinking about the other film. So that is my personal engagement, not the one that I had with Chamkila while I was making it, and when we were talking about the previous film. So it's personal, and I'm concerned about whether I'll get the chance to make the film that I want or not. If my films don't work, then how am I going to get the chance to make this film? So the personal engagement is looking front, not back.
Can you? I mean, I would imagine that you can work with pretty much anyone you want to work with.
I don't know. Let's see. No, pretty much anybody that I can work with in terms of casting.
In terms of actors, because I would imagine that, I mean, everyone wants to work with Imtiaz. Everyone wants. It is a. I mean, I now work with actors, so I know it's most actors' dream to be directed by Imtiaz. Hopefully in a love story. Hopefully in a film that has great music by A.R. Rahman. To you, Imtiaz, I mean, like. Are there other actors that you're excited about? Other actors that that you're looking forward to working with? How do you sort of decide who you want to work with?
It depends upon the film. It depends on the character. It depends on how exciting is this guy playing that.
Yeah.
So it's always that. It's always and only that. And sometimes you're surprised as well, because for instance, when I met Alia, I had never thought I'm going to ask her to do Highway, because I was thinking of a slightly older person, much older person than Alia at that time, to play Highway. Somebody who's seen life and who can say those wise words at the end of the film. But seeing her, I thought, this is so exciting, because it's completely unknown. She was just like girl becoming woman, at that point of time, and she was wearing clothes, and I was like, oh, she thinks she's a woman now. And but for her to say this would be so. एक फिल्मी टर्म होता है ना कि कलेजा होना चाहिए, बंदे का कलेजा होना चाहिए. Will he be able to pick this up? And suitability.
Imtiaz, music is such a big part of your films, and it's such a great part of your films. You've had mostly two really solid collaborations, one with AR and one with Pritam. I mean, you've done both incredible work. What is your musical? What is the process of creating music together? At what part do you start engaging with your composer? Do you write for music? Is music incorporated after you've written the script? What is the process?
Usually, when I write screenplay and the subsequent versions, I end up writing 3 or 4 versions of a screenplay ultimately, and music and songs
Are they
start.
very different? Is this drafts basically you're saying?
These are drafts.
Right.
Not very different. I think they're very different when I'm making the next one,
Right.
but when I look back, I realize it's not so different.
No, no. What? Sorry, you mean each draft?
Each
Right,
draft, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Each draft is different, and progressively more and more music gets written in. Sometimes the music gets written in right at inception. There is no real rule, but yeah, ultimately my screenplays, the final screenplay that we shoot with has song number 5, song number 4, so on and so forth. Sometimes there are titles also. And definitely what the song is saying, either musically or in terms of lyrics, that, something like words destroy what I have to say. I have beautiful things to say, but जो भी मैं कहना चाहूँ बर्बाद करे अल्फाज मेरे. So that's in English, written there. So I do write a bit of music into this, but into the film. But sometimes, and especially while working with Rahman, he brings about a perspective or a dimension, really, which doesn't exist in my mind before. And it's the sound of music. It's not as though he says words. It's like I listen to something that he makes, and then I realized that actually he's seeing it from a point of view. What I told him, he's seeing it from a point of view which didn't exist. It's a third dimension. Wow. So if I take this, I'll have to make certain changes, and a certain soundscape will come into the film. I mostly go ahead and make those changes then. Rockstar, for instance, I saw it recently 2 times in the theater.
Yeah.
I realized, what the hell is this film? Where is the screenplay? I'm just seeing music.
Right.
I'm just seeing music, and I'm seeing this willfulness. Every song is messed up. Every song is twisted in the end. Some other song is barging into this one. Then live sound is coming. The live qawwali is being heard on Kun Faye Kun. And then it's turning out, and then there's sound goes away. What the hell was happening down there? So it just seems like some visual strung to a narrative of music. Because the story is fine, we get it. This guy wants to break his heart so that he can become a big star. And he goes after this girl for it. Oh, nice joke. It's over. But what really sustains it...
You really reduced it to bare bones.
Yeah, but then it's also because that music comes.
Right.
When he's on stage and that music comes before Nadan Parinde.
Yeah.
Or when he goes to the hospital and there is that drums and that chords.
Yeah.
Then, that concept, which sounds like a small joke, becomes big. So I felt that it's music. So music does a lot, and I'd like to say that both these gentlemen that you talk about, Preetham and Rahman, and Sandesh, who I worked with in my first film, they were very kind and they were very open to me.
Okay.
They let me come into, because for me, it was just fun to hang around where music was being made. It is so entertaining. I'm so spoiled. I was telling Rahman sir, I'm so spoiled that I want to be in a composer's room, because that is such a high that then listening to recorded music is never going to be so much fun now for me. So these guys let me into their rooms, into their sessions, and they asked me to talk to, like I was briefing the singers. Now I have this thing that briefing the singers about what the film is, etc. So I'm really into it.
Yeah.
I'm involved and inside. And Rahman was always like, the first time I worked with him, I said, he showed me a song. He played a song. He said, and then he was like, how's it? So I said, very good. And then later I said, sir, you are A.R. Rahman. I've never even heard a bad song from you. How am I, I'm glad I liked it. Otherwise, I would never have been able to say I don't like it. He said, no. you are director, no? So you have to direct. I realized that, and he meant it. He said, don't shortchange me, dude, because of your whatever awestruckness. So they've been very kind, and I guess, and I've really enjoyed working with these guys. Preetham is just a genius. He will wreck his own life. He's such a genius. You feel he's the most huggable guy in the world. If you ever get to meet him, just hug him. You'll really enjoy it.
Because how much of you exists in your protagonists? Because, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know whether this is something that it's people who know you a little bit, whether it's, it's people who are on the periphery or people who are very close to you. But it feels like, I mean, you look at Tamasha and there has to be a little of Imtiaz in that guy. You look at Rockstar and there has to be a lot of Imtiaz in that guy. Are some of these guys deliberately or not deliberately, or I mean, maybe unconsciously, subconsciously, is there maybe when you look back in retrospect, are you able to see a lot of yourself in your protagonist?
I always hope that none of my reflection comes into any character that I write. And because the other thing that happens when somebody sees your film is that you feel terribly exposed. Right. You feel that all my personal secrets, which I never tell people, is in the film. And I hope they don't understand. So I try to never have any reflection. Sometimes I do see not only the way I am or the way things that I have done, but things that I have wanted to, my aspirations, hopes, and dreams, things that I am unable to do. I see that in the characters. So, in trying to make the characters or not like me, sometimes I see my aspirations. I'll give you an example. I used to feel much more, but even now I feel a little shy, you know. And inhibited in talking to people and approaching, but Geet Dillon didn't.
Yeah.
So when I saw her in my rough cuts in the film trials, etc., I felt that what this girl is. This girl is my aspiration.
Right.
I wish I was like her. I wish I was so interesting, exciting, engaging, and so much fun. But I'm not. I'm boring by comparison. And my aspirations come through like that. Sometimes I feel that, why am I so cerebral? Why am I thinking? Why can't I just be like Jordan? So aspirations come in more than, hopefully,
that's
my
actually
real
so
self.
interesting. That's very, very interesting, because one would normally assume that it's just who you are is reflective in your characters, but that's so interesting that who you want to be also
That's the beautiful thing about fiction.
About film. Correct.
About fiction, you can
Realize your...
Also, the thing is that there is this very important quote by Oscar Wilde. He says, "I love acting. It is so much more real than real life."
Right.
It's more truthful than real life. You get to be things that society doesn't allow you to be.
Right.
You get to experience moments that, of anything you want, sin, adultery, of being larger than life, anything. So you can't even, when people watch a film and they have a good time, they can't even imagine how good a time the filmmaker is having, because he's doing it for his own entertainment, actually. Right. That's how the entertainment industry comes in. Why? We're all drifters. Right. We're all people that couldn't have set ourselves in society. We had this thing to do, engage in this way, and thank God we can make our living. So to counterbalance, we needed to do this.
Yeah.
And it's hugely not only entertaining, it is the oxygen that we breathe, actually, fiction.
Because what informs your politics, your worldview? And I mean, we were at the airport coming here, and we were having a meal, and you were talking
You
about...
were seeing that I was telling Raju stories.
Yeah, and
at the
and
airport
I was feeling so... I have to admit, I was feeling so sort of stupid and dumb, because you were talking about Vietnam, and you were talking about, and I'm like, you obviously travel a lot. You're obviously... What, I mean, is it reading? Is it traveling? Is it music? What informs your sort of your life, and I'm guessing all of this trickles into the choices that you make professionally as well. What motivates you? What gets you excited?
I think people to begin with. And I think some of us are lucky that we are genuinely interested in people. So people really work for me, and what they think and who they could be when they are not with me. That imagination then starts to come in. So it starts with people, and then culture, civilization, and how that civilization is guided by nature or is a part of it, and so on and so forth. But it's all people centric. I do read books, and more than even books, I think I get guided by art, like painting and architecture. Sometimes that has a feeling which cannot be expressed in words. I like those feelings a lot because they bring about a different dimension. You know, it's not like I'm replicating something. It's like art can inspire me as a filmmaker to do something. So these things speak to me a lot. But ultimately, it is people.
What film did you watch recently that made you feel like, God, I have so much more to achieve? Like, is there a film that made you feel like, God, I've done, a lot of actors talk like that. A lot of filmmakers talk about something they saw and go like, oh God, what have I done? I've done nothing. This is so great.
Yeah, there are so many films like that. And well, when that Everything All at Once, what's the name of the film completely?
Everything, everywhere. Oh, yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. When I saw it on a big screen at the Mami Festival, I was like, what are we doing? And then there was Wild Tales also.
Yes,
I was
the
like,
anthology.
what am I doing? And there is so much people are doing. They've really streaked ahead, and there's so much. And also I get this feeling also when I travel in India. Because now that I've traveled a bit around the world, I see the magnificence of and the cinematicness of regular Indian life. And I feel there is so much narrative there. There's so much philosophy there. There's so much diversity. And I have not been able to showcase any of it. Like I look at my films, I feel that they are bland. And yeah, there are many other films, which is your
I
question.
think you're too harsh on yourself. Yeah.
No. It's true.
But I think it's much better to have people to feel that way than I think a lot of
Rajiv, you don't understand what is the resources that are available in my hand. Yeah. You know, there is so much that can be done by a filmmaker, and you feel so dissatisfied when you are unable to do it. You know, hopefully with success, hopefully with people liking it, but people will like it or not like it if you do it first. Like long back, I saw a film called The Battle for Algiers. At that time, I felt, oh my God, where are we in the narrative? You know, how do they even conceive these films? How do they make it? So they do give me the creeps, actually, these films.
Before I open it out to the audience, I want to ask you, and I know this is a tough one. It's, every film is your baby, every sequence. Not so much about film, but I'm making it even harder, Imtiaz. What is your favorite sequence that you've shot? Is there something that you've shot that you feel completely at peace with? Because I know that, again, filmmakers look at something and even if it's something that's been celebrated and loved, you'll find 100 ways you could have done it better, or you feel I could have done this differently. Is there a sequence that you just feel really good about and feel like I achieved exactly what I set out to? I want to say the Vida Karo song in Chamkila, and the way that it's been shot, and just the moments of authenticity and the way it hits you straight in the gut as an audience. That most recently in any film, that is the one for me. But for yourself?
No, I can't think of any sequence where I feel I've done what I set out to do. Okay. What I set out to do, I forget very, very early in the process, thankfully. And then there's a journey. I can't think of anything like that. But sometimes I get affected by certain portions of my film.
Yeah.
And for instance, when I watched Rockstar recently, where at the end of the movie, he's standing on stage and he's just done this Nadan Parinde and he's fallen silent mid-song. And then this girl comes in his imagination. And then she talks to him and there's a flashback scene under the the sheet, and she says, "Don't worry, there's no one here. It's just us. We'll always be here. Do you like my world?" And he says, "I won't be able to live now outside." She says, "You don't have to. We'll be here." And then we cut back to the harsh moment of reality that he's standing on stage and he's just broken like that. And then the music goes off, and then the visuals go off, and there is, like, Aarti and I were editing this, and I was like, keep black. Keep like 1 minute black if you want. Don't worry. Keep, aur bada. So, and it's dark, the screen. And then just from nowhere, this happy song comes.
Right.
You know, of Tum Ho. Yeah. And at that point of time, you feel something. Yeah. So if I can't say whether I set out to do it or I feel happy or satisfied about it, but I knew it when I saw it now, I was moved. Right. So when that happens, sometimes I even imagine how Veera Alia in Highway, at the end of it, says that I might be corrupt, I might be a fool, I might be bad, but मैं तुम लोगों में से एक नहीं हूँ. And that little girl.
That's a moment of so much honesty, yeah.
That little girl. And it really moves you. So things can move me from my films sometimes, but things usually move to anger and despair. What the hell was I thinking? Why this, why that? But certain things move you.
Can I say, for me, it was Kun Faya Kun. And I just remember that being in that hall, and I remember sort of, is the word zoning out? I feel like there was some sort of spiritual thing that happened, which I'm sure happened for the actor, because it was just the most incredible 2 minutes of honesty, which cannot be explained in words. What a song, and the way it was just shot. Okay, we will open it out to questions. Wow. Okay.
Me too. Why don't you sit down?
To be able to get the most questions in, keep your questions short. Don't give us your opinion. Just give us a question. The gentleman here in the white, right?
This thing that is. Do you have a question? Yes. I have 2 questions to ask. By the time you get on to the second one, I've forgotten the first. Yeah. So one by one, please. Thank you.
The gentleman in the white. Yeah.
Hello, Imtiaz sir. I actually had a question. Since there have been different eras in Bollywood, since the late 50s, 60s, where we've seen Dilip Kumar, or now
best actor I know.
Okay. Or we've seen Amitabh Bachchan in the 80s, and then Shah Rukh Khan in the 90s. Since they have made a USP of the actor as a name in the film, like, people back in the day might have thought, oh, it's a Amitabh Bachchan film, let's go see it. But since I would say the late 2000s, it's also been, the tide has turned in the favor of directors, and it's always been, it's a Rajkumar Hirani film, or it's an Imtiaz Ali film, or it's
I'm so glad this has happened.
Yeah. So all I wanted to ask is for that specific turn of events, is there a lot of more pressure on the director, or is it different from the pressure that the actor has on the back?
These are pressures that directors would love to take. And no, I think actors are always important and should remain. But the fact that the audience is now wiser, because, after 75 or 100 years of watching cinema, they also realize that other people apart from the actors are working on it, and that's why certain films are a certain type, and there's a Raj Kapoor, so let me go and watch his film, because whether it is he himself or whoever, in his films he acted mostly. But even in his later films, you would see that people would go and see a Raj Kapoor film. So I feel that this trend is not a recent one. I feel that whenever somebody makes a certain type of movies, he's always followed as a director. So we have to coexist. Everybody is important in this ecosystem. It's not giving added feeling of threat or insecurity to directors. Directors would like it if the pressure is upon them.
Thank you so much. Mr. Imtiaz Ali, it's a privilege to see you. My name is Sri Devi. I'm a lecturer in creative writing at RMIT University, and RMIT does have a lot of students who come in from India, and I get a lot of questions about screenwriting. And you've already answered it partially, but I am curious because you say when you factor in music and it changes in every draft, and that's great to know. But how does that happen in the scripting? Are you thinking of the character? Are you thinking of the plot? Is it a situation? When does it become a love song? When is it a huge dance party? How do you think of it in terms of the narrative? I'm just wondering.
There is an insight. There is an insight. There is a kind of sound in your head, I feel. And there is a certain picture in your mind while that song is happening on screen. So that is imaginative, and the notes are not complete maybe, but you know there is something. Like a lot of directors say that वो वहाँ से हीरो की एंट्री होती है और फिर ऐसे कैमरा आता है. You know, there is a sound that goes on in Subhash Ghai's head. You know, I know that because he always tells stories with a bit of this, you know. So it's not, in some way, when you're writing and when you're imagining a scene, a certain sound exists. A certain vibe of the song exists. And so you kind of try to write that in. However, when you improvise, when the music director comes in, lyrics writer comes in, which in my case has been Irshad consistently, then things change as well. That can we make this a reverse of this? Can we make this, will it be more cruel to actually have a happy song at this time? Will then I be able to see this character's pathos more? So things like that also happen. It will change the tone completely. And then that will affect the whole screenplay. So when music comes in, but you know, all of the material already is in your mind, whether it's plot, whether it's character. As you know, these things are not different from each other. These things affect each other. So when music comes, it affects the whole body. And you should let it affect the whole body.
Gentleman at the back over there, all the way in the back.
My friend Satyarth in the blue sweater is going to ask me a scary question, I think.
Hello. Hi, Imtiaz. I'm just curious. I know that you have done great romantic films of our age, and you are considered as Yash Chopra of our age. I'm just curious to see and know if you are given complete freedom in your lifetime, in your future upcoming films. Is there any other subject or genre that you would like to explore that you would love to make, like something other than romantic films? And by the way, I'm from Jamshedpur.
Oh, wow. May the tribe increase. But I don't look at movies in terms of genres. I'm a bit like, my approach is a bit more uneducated than that. I just think of things that are interesting to me or exciting to me, and I just write. And every film that you make becomes the film that you want to make. In a way that, so it's not as though I'm thinking that, oh, I've made romantic films, now I will make action films. Just to give you an example. But maybe, and it probably is going to happen, that there will be a movie which will have a lot of action, but it will still perhaps categorize as a love story, because there will be something of that sort that will categorize it as such. The categories obviously are decided in retrospect. Honestly, to tell you, when I started making films, I didn't think that I was making romantic films. I never thought I'm making romantic films. For me, Jab We Met is not a romantic film. It's something else. We'll talk about that on another chat with Rajiv. But I never believed that but obviously it's the audience that categorizes you, and then that there is truth in that more than what you might want to be.
The lady here.
More questions.
Okay.
Hi, Imtiaz. My name's Pragnia. Nice to meet you. Highway is the reason I'm here. I think, amazing cinematography. Apart from, a metaphorical and a physical journey that you beautifully narrated, it was the storytelling. And my question to you is about the character. When you make it look like she is dissociated and she wants to run away from the house after the violent abducting scene, it's a it takes a while for us to click on that she wants to run away. She wants to be with the abductor rather than back at home. How did you get to that deep psychological insight? Is that through great personal experience, journey? Is that psychology? How did you understand that?
Because a million girls and women had already told me by then that one day I will run away. One day, यहाँ से मैं चली जाऊंगी. So many women, for perhaps unfortunate reasons too, say that. And I had heard that being said. And they say it with half belief sometimes. And one was to think that, what if she actually is forced to do? Nobody runs away. But if it was possible to actually take this person out of the world that she wants to run away from, will she come back? Will she want to come back? That was the question going on in my mind. So that's the answer, really. We can have Satyarth ask, please. He wants to ask something. He's my friend from school. We were in the 3rd standard in the bus together.
I really want to hear his question.
Thank you.
No, he's going to say something safe so that I appear good.
Okay. Now we know.
We've never played safe. We used to hang on the doors of the buses, just to give everyone an idea. Imtiaz, this is, I think, Rajiv, you made the point about Vida Karo and Chamkila like rock stars still ringing. You know, despite being a friend, I like Imtiaz because of the timeless work he creates. And Imtiaz, the question, and we didn't get to speak after I saw Chamkila, is Chamkila's work was very controversial, you know, back in the day especially. People coming out of closet is what he implored. He wanted people to explore their sexuality and all of that, right? And this is what makes this film a timeless, masterful, crafty film. How you humanized him despite his profession, right? There is an incredible way in which you've kept the titillation and the voyeurism out of the film and you've humanized him. This to me has never been done before. You know, I shouldn't say this in front of so many people, but how did you do it? I know there's purity of soul when it comes to you, but how did you execute it? I just wanted to ask you this question.
I think it was a matter of instinct, honestly. And I feel that what you evolve or you age at a point where you stop judging people and seeing beyond the judgment of society. I think his story was so much to do with the judgment of society that he merited a view beyond that. And there I found this person because I also researched about him and knew him and I got to know about his personal life. Chamkila was a guy who was actually a bit inhibited and shy with girls. It was difficult for him to talk to them even. But his songs are like this. And because I've done so much research on him and I've heard all his songs, I realized that he's presenting women not as weak objects, but as very empowered people. So I maybe personally, he was not looking at titillation in a one-sided way, Satyarth, you know. You see so many songs of his where the girl is actually having the better word at the end, where she's outwitting or outsmarting and sometimes cuckolding the man. Because all his songs are katha, like two people talking, right? So the girl is very empowered and very shiny. Yeah, but she's a woman. And so I feel that because he had a personal character like that, I started to explore that from his point of view. And that is why the titillation was kept away for the larger story to emerge, really.
I think one more you think we can get? This is tough. Imtiaz, you pick.
Yeah, her. She's saying her. So you. Thanks.
society may sometimes deem things as unacceptable and you can't necessarily always talk about it in society. Is that what was your lead into cinema? Is that what motivated you to create such things where you could express what people may be thinking internally but might not be able to talk about in public? Is that what you felt?
Bang on, absolutely. What's your name?
Sonia?
Sanya. Absolutely. I look back and I feel that there were things that I couldn't really say in life or do in life, and that's what got put into cinema. And I think something that can be said simply in society has no role in cinema. So yeah, you're right. Now I look back at Jordan, at Veera, at so many characters, even Aditya and Geet and Chamkila, that there was the struggle between the individual and society, and about the changing modes, about what's right and wrong for society. So yeah, that struggle has perhaps led me. It's not a on the face struggle. It's not as though some great torture was levied upon me personally. But one does feel that you need a bit more elbow room in this very conditioned, very straight-lined societal form. That leads you to art. Yeah. It's a very nice point you made, ma'am.
All right, I'm told that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for this. But thank you, Imtiaz. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
Rajiv.
for
This was
really opening your
insightful.
heart. I really enjoyed this so much. We've never had a chance to talk at this length when we've sort of chatted before. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rajiv. It's always a pleasure talking to
No,
you.
the pleasure's mine.